and you know it. With a tear in my eye.
The king is back, baby.
Acknowledge me.
Hello, everybody. It is episode 306 of Top Rope Nation. I will tell you the format for this show has changed considerably over the last couple of days. It's going to be an interesting one. Certainly not the happiest times in pro wrestling here as we go on the air Thursday night, August 24th. A lot to talk to. Some of it fun, a lot of it not so fun, but we're hoping that we can join all of you in remembering the careers of, one of the all-time greatest wrestlers who we lost this week, and also one of the biggest stars of the modern era. So, of course, just a couple of hours ago, we got word that, unfortunately, Bray Wyatt has passed away, Wyndham Rotunda, at the age of 36 years old. So tragic. 4 children, a young family, a wife, and it's really just hard to put into words, the emotions that we're feeling right now. This is a guy who on the podcast we've talked a lot about over the years, some of it negative, some of it positive, but that's just wrestling, that's entertainment. And when it comes to the life of someone like this, especially thinking about those young kids, this is just ultimate tragedy. We just got word, Sean Ross Sapp put out, that it was a heart attack. He had been having health problems ever since getting COVID, which makes this, very scary. And it's one of those long-term complications of that scenarios. And so with that being said, not super jazzed to be talking in front of the camera tonight, but we wanted to be here, for our listeners and to, just talk about all of it. So as always, I'm Ryan Drosty, and I am joined by the whole gang tonight, here with Justin Joint and Jesse Velasquez. Jesse, how are you doing, sir?
Okay. I suppose if I could be honest, I had joked a little bit off air. I was going to say, what's going on, bruvs? But there we go. I just said it. Yeah, a little melancholy at the moment, and 2/3 of this criteria was not on my format sheet, Ryan. So, well, just looking forward to hopefully a little bit of listenership help tonight would be lovely. That's for sure.
Yes. If you are joining us live, we would love it if you would, share some of your memories of Bray Wyatt and, of course, Terry Funk. We're going to talk a lot about tonight as well. And at the end of the show, we'll get into some of our thoughts on this weekend and hopefully pick up the mood a little bit as we try to prepare for AEW All In, the biggest show audience-wise in the history of professional wrestling. So hopefully we can go out on a positive note tonight. Justin Joint, how are you doing?
Sad, man. But also thankful for, the community or, the group that we have here with Top Rope Nation, because it's times like these. I've dealt with losing dear friends before, and in those times you turn to your family, and that's what we're going to do now is, we're turning to our family, and that's our wrestling family in this case. And it's good to talk about it and to know that you have people that you can talk about it with, that you can reach out to. In this case, I'd be talking about, our group, not just our Patreons, but anybody involved with Top Rope Nation. Talk to us,
Yeah. Well said. Well said. We've got such a great, tight-knit, but also large community with the podcast that has developed over the last few years. And I mean, a lot of conversation going on already over in the Facebook group about both all week we've been talking about Terry Funk, and then of course Bray Wyatt here in the last few hours. So I guess, since it's fresh, we can start with Bray. And I'm obviously, as I said, the show open, nobody could have expected this coming. We were expecting him to return to WWE. There was a lot of signs that they were working on something. We had heard that he had some health problems, but he was trying to get back into shape to return. And man, again, it's just, you think about the history of the Wyatt family. I mean, that was, it comes to mind right away. Brody Lee, tragically losing him a couple of years ago. now Bray. And I mean, just like that, something that was so recent, Rowan's the only one left. I mean, you can't even put into words the sadness that brings about thinking about that. Yeah, it's we don't know these guys personally. We're fans, but when you see these people on TV so much, every time you lose one of these guys, it hurts a lot. And you think back to those good memories. And I was such a fan of the Wyatt family as it started, when they had that kind of cult backwoods gimmick, and when Bray would come out with the lantern and everything. We've said this many times on the podcast, but I always felt that they dropped the ball on him so much. Like, every time he would get close, they pulled the rug out from under him. And no matter what you thought of the Fiend, and listeners to this podcast know we were not big fans of the Fiend. Our former co-host really was not a big fan of the Fiend here on Top Rope Nation, but we were all critical of it. I think when it started, we liked it, but we all acknowledged it was going to be hard to maintain the momentum with that type of a character, and it proved to be. But he was a creative guy. Bray Wyatt was a very creative guy. Everyone he worked with says that. You see all the tributes pouring in right now online, and I'm sure he could have come up with yet again something new to try to overcome that writer's room at WWE and try to break through. But I think ultimately my thoughts are that initial gimmick that he had, coming up from NXT, that was the one. That was the one where he had the best chance, to remain a main event. He was a main eventer at different times in his career, but to remain at that level moving forward. What do you think, Jesse?
Absolutely. Bar none is his best gimmick. I mean, made you forget about Husky Harris in a hurry, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. Yeah, it's been a very melancholy week so far. I truly believe this weekend's going to turn it around, but let's go back to Bray Wyatt here. I mean, you guys aren't the only ones that have been hypercritical of Bray Wyatt, the character. I think over the last few years, just kind of feel, I mean, at the end of the day, these performers, they're all humans too. And I think you nailed it right away, Ryan, is that we're all fathers, and leaving behind 4 children, a wife, 36 years old. My brother just turned 36 as well a couple of months ago. He has 2 kids. We all have kids. That, to me, is very hard. It's just now Bray Wyatt's family needs us. They need the community to rally around him, support them to the best of their abilities, and just show that, hey, we appreciated who you were, what you did. We obviously don't know you extremely well, like a personal relationship perspective, yet we respect the entertainment value that you gave us over the course of the decade. Your family has given us as well. So I guess there really isn't much more at the moment I have to say. Like I said, I just thoughts and prayers, please go out to wife and children. That's what's most important this time.
That's the double punch of this thing, talking about Terry Funk and going back to Brody Lee, universally loved by not just their fans, but their peers. And you see that with Bray Wyatt. You never heard anybody talking shit about any of these guys. I mean, they were all upstanding. Obviously, we didn't know them, but from everything you read, and boy, you talk about wrestling dirt sheets, the shit will come out if there is shit there. And in this case, you never heard anything. It was just a top-notch human being. Same goes for Terry Funk. People that always had time for their fans, and I thinking about Bray Wyatt, going back to that first, I think it was that first promo when he came back after all the White Rabbit stuff, when he said he's here as, he didn't say this, but he insinuated, I'm here as, Wyndham right now, not Bray Wyatt. And I am, encourage anybody to go back and watch that, where, at his lowest, he thanked the fans for, picking him back up.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really the first thing that I really noticed about, what everybody was talking about with the loss, was just a beloved human being, more so than anything to do with, his wrestling career. But we are a wrestling podcast, and I would like to talk a little bit about the wrestling here with Bray Wyatt. Ryan, you alluded to it. The thing that comes to mind with Bray Wyatt is dropping the ball, unfortunately. And I'm not talking about Bray Wyatt dropping the ball. I'm talking about WWE. I mean, he is an all-time what if guy. You think about just his initial trajectory going into WrestleMania 30 against John Cena, and he loses. And then after that, they start doing the silly shenanigans with like the steel cage match, and there's a child singing in the ring to just, for the distraction, weird stuff like that. But even beyond that, a year later, building them back up, they have him lose to Undertaker at 31. The stuff with Randy Orton at WrestleMania 33, that to me should have been a story where Bray Wyatt was the baby face. And it should have been him embracing just his own humanity, not the spooky stuff, the Hell in a Cell as the Fiend. Just an all-time bad booking decision by WWE. Once again, going back to what Ryan said, I freaking loved the Fiend when it first started. I'm sorry, but his debut at SummerSlam is an all-timer for me. Just an incredible fucking entrance. Electric. And then the one other time I think, the what if that I think slips through the cracks and is kind of saved by a top 5 greatest pro wrestling gif of all time is his very brief babyface partnership with Roman Reigns in early 2016, right after WrestleMania. He unfortunately got hurt days later, but that gif is, he gets the pin after the Sister Abigail, and Sheamus is about to attack him or break up the pin, and he just, without even looking, just points. And here comes Roman Reigns out of nowhere with the spear. Just chef's kiss, beautiful fucking moment. But that, that's the thing with Bray Wyatt. A lot of people will criticize the in-ring work and some of the over-the-top spooky stuff, which is, I think, rightfully criticized. I think he's also going to be as close as we may ever come to having the next Undertaker, which is, it's weird to me that WWE blew that because they were just so close to it. But just him and Terry Funk, just absolute, unique and beautiful snowflakes as far as this wrestling industry is concerned. Unafraid to take chances. Number one. Yeah. I don't know, guys. I'm at this point, I'm just kind of rambling, trying to get all these Bray Wyatt, thoughts.
I'll throw one in, Ryan, before I'll let you have the mic. And I'm kicking myself definitely now for not going to this. Elimination Chamber was in my backyard in 2014, the final pay-per-view before the network, and you got the Shield versus the Wyatts, the very first 6-man, and how incredible that was. And there were 7 of us in our living room just watching this, and we felt the goosebumps. We felt the electricity. Pro wrestling magic at its absolute finest. That to me is still that's gonna easily be my favorite Bray Wyatt match ever. Not even close was that initial 6-man.
Yeah. Chad is really posting a lot of good stuff here. So if you guys are on our video stream, make sure to check out the chat and chime in with your memories of Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk as we move forward. I think I have uploaded the GIF that you're talking about, Justin. Let me see if this plays on the stream.
Beautiful.
That's
just
the one.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
I hope that doesn't get copyrighted, but it's a GIF, so hopefully it'll be all right. It's less than 7 seconds. Fair use. Come on. Fantastic stuff.
He wasn't a perfect pro wrestler, but goddamn was he unique and special. He kicked off, once the pandemic started, and we're looking at, a crowdless WrestleMania 36, and him and John Cena, to me, saved it. With that, the Firefly Funhouse match. That was a work of art. Just top-notch stuff from those guys.
Yeah. You mentioned one of the greatest what ifs. I saw our guy Derek Chappelle here is in the chat, and he said the exact same thing to me earlier today or tonight. He texted me and he said, I think that Bray Wyatt is one of the biggest what ifs in wrestling history, just like you said, Justin. And Derek said in the chat that Bray Wyatt should have been the one to end the streak. And I remember a lot of people felt that way at the time because you said, closest to the Undertaker, and a lot of people were thinking like he seemed like the natural successor to Taker and taking that mantle. And I mean, obviously would have put him over in a much bigger way than anything we saw happen in the years after that, and what happened at 30 for him. So
Yeah.
Especially having Brock over the year before. And then it's like, okay, the mystique of WrestleMania is kind of gone. Break and now give him the victory. He's an up and comer. The chance to right a wrong from the year before, which you mentioned, Justin, with Cena as well. 30.
yeah.
The worst part about, I mean, I'm not going to say the worst part. It worked out with Lesnar breaking the streak, but the weird thing, about him possibly being the next Undertaker is they dropped the ball twice more. Like I said earlier at WrestleMania 31, why did Undertaker need to win that one? And then the Survivor Series 25th anniversary, where it was that Undertaker and Kane versus Bray and Brody Lee. Once again, they had to lose and they had to look like fools. Like that's like every time he was on the upswing, mostly booking, sometimes injury, something just cut the momentum right from underneath him. And he like I said, he's just always going to be a giant what if for me. And even as a giant what if, still an all-time great. You can't take that away from him in such a short career. It's like even the stuff that people dislike, and I don't blame them for, with how hokey and cheesy some of it. The one thing you can say watching it was Bray believed in it. Wyndham Rotunda believed in what he was doing. You talk about pro wrestling acting, in that he excelled at that.
Stuff that had never been done before from a character. Bray Wyatt, in the originality, the creativity. Yes, scale of 1 to 10, it's definitely at a perfect 10. I mean, you can't get any more creative nowadays than what he was trying to do. And that's something I think that's gone in pro wrestling. It's something we haven't seen in a long, long time, is an original character that can really open our eyes and draw us to television screens. And I definitely, truly believe Bray Wyatt had that gift. He did an amazing job for that decade from 13 until early 23.
An absolute humper of an entrance music too, of which he picked out, of like the what I don't remember what they call it, but it's the list of free music that you can pick from, and he came across that one, and boy, what a perfect choice on his part.
Yes. Yeah. Even the Code Orange version with the Fiend, I enjoyed that too. I actually had that on my workout playlist for about a month or so before. I was like, all right, heard it enough. It's good stuff.
I remember that SummerSlam show, Justin, around that time when the Fiend started, we like raved about the theme song and the presentation. Yes. We were so into, I think when on our award show we did that year, we were like best theme song in wrestling. I think it won for our pod that year. But yeah, we were always skeptical of, how long it could last, and they would have to adapt to this character, and creative just didn't. Felt like they continued the Funhouse stuff way too long, and
they overpowered the Fiend too.
Yes. Yeah. They made it to a point where, he was just too powerful. You're right. But I mean, hey, look, still the last man to have held that blue championship belt, right? The Romans had for over 1,000 days. He had it right before Roman. So, I mean,
wow.
Yeah.
Coming up on the anniversary of that title change. It's here August, I believe, the 30th, which, I mean, we'll get into it later, but SummerSlam was the week before and Payback was the following week. By the way, it was really cool. The one thing I will never forget about that entrance was they showed like the WWE backstage. They had some of the performers were in this room watching these pay-per-views, and Johnny Gargano had this like 8-year-old, I'm watching greatness in front of me. Like, this is how I grew up in pro wrestling. This is why I loved it. And that was Bray Wyatt's entrance. That was a phenomenal moment to me.
Agree.
I don't really have anything more to add on Bray unless you guys do. I mean, it's Tim chiming in the chat. Yeah, he was at that Wyatt Shield match that you referenced. Jesse, I remember he made. I don't know why I didn't go to that with him. I had something going on. I wish I would have. I mean, I saw Bray a number of times in person, but that would have been the match to see. Yeah. It's so fresh. I haven't really had enough time to totally collect my thoughts, but I hope in the last 15 plus minutes. I mean, it seems like we just started talking about it. We've been going over 15 minutes. We've kind of at least done some rapid reaction to this horrible news and talking about Bray. So unless you guys have any more, we got to jump to another loss this week in wrestling. Anything else you wanted to say about Bray, Justin?
No, just one of a kind. And no matter how you criticize the pro wrestling part of him, just his connection to his fans was undeniable.
Yeah. So we lose Bray Wyatt today, August 24th. And now it seems like it was a week ago, but it was yesterday that we lost Terry Funk, one of the greatest of all time.
Was that seriously yesterday?
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Insane, right? August 23rd. It's just, man, we obviously Top Rope Nation Classics over on Patreon, the show we just did. Great American Bash 89. Just talked a lot about Terry Funk from that main event. And talking off air before we went live tonight, a few years ago, March of 2020, he's in the chat right now. We had Derek Chappelle on, and we did a watch-along classics episode, and also just talked about Memphis wrestling to the very famous Empty Arena match with Jerry Lawler and Terry Funk back from 1981. So if you never heard that, it's in the Patreon archives as well. That was a really, really fun show. So, I mean, lots of Terry Funk discussion has happened on the show over the years, and lots of discussion going on in the Facebook group over the last 24 to 48 hours on him. And I think we kind of said this on, if I remember right, on the Patreon show, but like just such a believable pro wrestler, Terry Funk. When you would watch this man wrestle, you would swear it was all real. That's the thing that I take away from Terry Funk. I mean, this guy could do everything early in his career. Technical wrestler, wrestling alongside Dory Jr., his brother. Went over to Japan. He could brawl. He could wrestle technical, again, with Flair if he needed to, or he could have great brawls with Ric Flair. I mean, the constant theme with Terry Funk is constantly reinventing himself and changing with the times.
Yeah.
He wasn't one of those old guys that was like totally stuck in his ways. This is a man who would adapt even into his 60s with what was hot in pro wrestling and be like, all right, I'm going to do that now then. I mean, technical wrestling, old school, brawling. Then you get into the 90s, as Tim mentioned in the chat, the hardcore matches in Japan. There's a whole generation of fans who just grew up with him as the hardcore icon. When, I mean, early in his career, that was not the case. He was from this great wrestling family out of Texas who could just match you hold for hold if he needed to, who was the NWA world champion for 14 months. There's a lot of fans had no idea this guy was champion of the world in the 1970s. So I'm wearing this ECW shirt tonight because of Terry Funk, because he was so instrumental in establishing ECW as a national brand in the mid 90s. At this point in time, he is 50 years old. He's becoming ECW world champion. He's wrestling in some of the craziest hardcore matches the United States had ever seen, with the barbed wire matches, or the match that you mentioned off air, Jesse, with the chairs being thrown into the ring at these guys. I mean, he was the guy that ECW needed to succeed, and he would always lend a hand to anybody, whether if they needed his star power to draw, or if they just wanted his help. He would go out of his way to help you out. And man, it's just such a loss for the industry, just an all-time legend who I think his reputation will just continue to grow, in the aftermath of his death, even though he was a legend in his own time. This is a guy who thought he wasn't a legend and that he wouldn't be remembered, which is just insane to think that. But sometimes the greatest think that about themselves for whatever reason. They have imposter syndrome, I guess. But Terry Funk, truly one of the greatest of all time. Dynamic, so much success over multiple decades, a real athlete before he got into pro wrestling, legit football star coming out of Amarillo, Texas. He was a college football star as well. He married his, I can't even say high school sweetheart. I believe they met in 6th grade, his wife. And then they split up at one time, I believe, when he was world champion. He was on the road so much.
I read the story, yeah.
And then they got back together, right? So
he basically quit wrestling to go win the love of his life back.
Yeah.
Terry Funk forever, everybody.
Yeah, Meltzer wrote about this in a little piece on the Observer because he's traveling as all of this is happening. One of the few weeks Dave's not putting out an Observer, and he's traveling over to England for All In. But when he comes back, if you've never subscribed to the Observer before, you should subscribe just for the Terry Funk bio, because it is going to be unreal. Because Dave and Terry were really tight, so he's going to have all. I mean, I don't know how many pages this thing's going to be, but it's going to be a must read. But I mean, yeah, I was just going to say about his background. So he goes to West Texas State University as an offensive lineman down there. I think he rotated between being a guard and a tackle, and not quite good enough for the NFL, but legit enough, to know that this is a dude you don't want to mess with. His father, Dory Funk, who was promoting the Western States Territory and then who tragically died pretty young of a heart attack in the early 1973, I believe. He was known, for protecting the business at all costs, and he would fight people that would challenge him and say wrestling is fake. And then Terry did the same thing. But Terry was also known for just being a sweetheart behind the scenes. I wrote about this in the Facebook group, but I did have a chance to meet him once. And as I look up on my wall right here in my office, I have a picture of myself standing between DiBiase and Funk in 2006. And I was covering that show for, yeah, myself, Terry.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
And, so I go down there. It's 2006. I've been covering wrestling for a little bit, about 4 or 5 years. And this is before the Tragos Thez Hall of Fame moved to Waterloo, where Justin and I live. It was in Newton, Iowa at that time. And I mostly went, I can't remember how far in advance I knew Terry was going to be there, but I knew Bret Hart was going to be there. So I had to go, and I applied for a media pass, and I got the media pass. I posted this picture on social media. You can kind of read that I'm wearing this name tag that says media. But this was so long ago, I can't remember. He said something funny as I walked up to his table about my tag. And then I remember that museum was hot as hell that day. Right now the Midwest is experiencing this horrible heat wave. It was 105 degrees as I drove home from work today, not counting humidity, which makes it hotter feeling than that. And I remember that day it was scorching hot, and we're in this museum in Newton, and there's no air conditioning. You can even tell in the picture I'm sweaty and just drenched in sweat. But I do remember walking around there a little bit, and I talked a lot to Charlie Thez, Lou's widow, that day. And Terry came over, and I talked with him a little bit, and I kind of remember walking around the museum next to him. And I wish I would have done an official interview with him or something, but so early in my wrestling media coverage that I had never done anything in person like that, at least. So it was kind of a lost opportunity, but I got to hang out with him a little bit, and he was super nice. One of the most approachable wrestlers I've ever been around. Just made you feel like you were friends instantly. When you would see this guy on TV doing those wild-eyed promos like he did with Flair when he had that feud with Flair in '89, especially that we watched recently, you would not believe it was the same guy. His kind of screechy Southern drawl voice that he had, that's how he was in person, but very kind of soft-spoken in person. And such a nice guy. We can go on and on about his career, but like I said, kind of started out tag teaming with his brother Dory Jr. And in Texas, they'd go over to Florida, eventually go to Japan, and they were wrestling for All Japan. And when they were in All Japan, they really helped legitimize that promotion, competing with New Japan. And eventually they go over there and they were heels. But then when they worked this match, I believe in Tokyo, with the Sheik and Abdullah the Butcher, it kind of transformed them into beloved baby faces, given their opponents. And after that, it's argued there's never been a more popular foreign wrestler in Japan than Terry Funk. He was like a god over there and had so much success. I mean, the tag team matches him and Dory Jr. had with Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen, those are ones you should definitely check out. Very like transformational when it comes to international wrestling. And then, as I said, NWA world champion, mid 1970s. He won the title from Jack Briscoe in 75, lost it to Harley Race. I believe it was the second time Harley had been champion. And yeah, I mean, you go into the 80s, he had really memorable matches with Dusty, of course, with Lawler, who I mentioned, Tully Blanchard, Flair, of course. He was briefly in the WWF in the mid 80s. Him and Hogan worked on Saturday Night's Main Event. I always felt like he felt kind of out of place in the WWF, at least in that era. Jesse, you're nodding.
Big time. I was going to mention that kind of towards the end of where I was going to go. You hit on a lot of them, Ryan, so thank you so much for... No, that was an awesome job with Terry Funk in early parts of his career, because, yeah, Japan is where he made his name. Probably the top gaijin for a while, top foreigner, of course, with like the Brody and the Hansons. What I found ironic, it was really strange, was he didn't hold a championship from 1982 to 1992. He didn't win a belt for a decade.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
No, but Vince, again, like, he didn't book Terry Funk very well at all. It's just kind of reminiscent to like what he did with Sting later on, and just Flair's about the only person I believe that has actually been booked very well coming from the rival promotion. I'd say just a handful of things real quick, because you did a great job with that. Funk obviously the early 90s, started ECW and was Eastern Championship Wrestling. Tremendous matches with Cactus Jack, the FMW work, and the IWA, like the King of the Deathmatch stuff, which, by the way, the Eddie Kingston, John Moxley Revolution 2021 gone wrong. If you want to watch it go right, take a look at the end of the Atsushi Onita Terry Funk FMW. I believe it was the King of the Deathmatch finals. You can find the final 2 minutes of it on YouTube, and how an exploding barbed wire angle is well done.
That was the first one ever, wasn't it? Was it 93?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible stuff. Go back and go out of your way to see that on YouTube for sure. Onita, Terry Funk, FMW, exploding barbed wire ring. Sabu, he had the match with Sabu at Born to Be Wired in August of 97, which is, to me, the most gruesome normal independent match, or like normal big three match that I've ever seen.
Sabu cutting open his bicep.
Yep.
Insane.
Yep. Both of them tangled at the end of the match in just, I'm talking...
They had to be cut out, yeah.
Yeah, 10 to 15 feet worth of barbed wire around them. It was unbelievable. And I've been going through 1998 a lot, and he's been featured in the WWF quite a bit. So this time around, I actually got a little better with the Chainsaw Charlie gimmick, which is really weird. But go out of your way to watch his match with Mick Foley. It was a Dude Love back then. It was April 28th of 1998. Falls Count Anywhere match with Pat Patterson as the referee. Awesome stuff. You'll get to see him execute a moonsault off the guardrail. Pretty sweet there. And I'd say my favorite moment so far of watching 1998 Terry Funk was when they won the dumpster match at the WWF Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania 14. They closed the lid, and he's literally headbutting it as they shut the door. He goes, "I got him, you son of a bitch, I got him." Oh, I mean, I literally just gut laugh for a good 30 seconds. But that just, again, shows the depth of the character of Terry Funk. He made you believe, as Ryan said, that pro wrestling's real. Loved him.
Yeah. One of my favorite brawlers just of all time. And look, we saw in Hollywood too. It's a guy that was in some big movies. Roadhouse, Over the Top. He's the guy that choreographed the fight. And I mean, Rocky V is not a particularly a particular favorite of the Rocky series, but that final scene with Stallone and Tommy Gunn fighting, Terry Funk's the guy who scripted that. Him and Sly Stallone were really close. I think Stallone put out a statement on his death last night, I believe I saw that. So, I mean, well connected, could have success in Hollywood too. Go ahead, Justin.
I mean, anytime a wrestler dies and a big portion of not just people in the industry, but people outside of it say best wrestler ever. You kind of have to take that at face value and at least seriously analyze that, because some of the best who have ever done it are going to tell you that Terry Funk is the best to have ever done it. Arguably the most complete wrestler. When you talk about, what was Bret Hart's 5 things that, to talk about a wrestler? I can't remember what they are at the moment, but like Terry Funk's at the fucking top at almost all of those. As Ryan already said, his talent was beyond eras. You could almost pluck any era of Terry Funk and just toss him into another one and he would find success.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And almost most importantly to me, wasn't afraid to be silly, wasn't afraid to have fun in the ring. There's a video going around of a match between him and Martel where he gets, nutted on the top rope and he does quite the my balls hurt strut on the outside, and he's pulling his trunks to take a look at him and it's like making sure his twig and berries are okay, and just he had fun. I think is the most important thing. He's just, his love for this business was very apparent. One of the best to ever do it.
Bret Hart's criteria: look, work rate, and promo. I mean, look, on those 3 things, your look, your work rate, and your promo, he's like a 10 out of 10 in all of them, is he not?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's in that discussion. I mean, if you take people in the business and their opinion matters more than anybody, his comrades in the locker room, and when they're all telling you he's one of the best to have ever done it, I mean, he's in that conversation. No question about it.
I've heard Eddie Kingston.
I forgot about him in Roadhouse. Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Eddie Kingston very passionate about the fact that Terry Funk is the greatest professional wrestler that ever lived.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he'll definitely fight you to death on that one. I remember the scene with him and Stallone and Over the Top when he threw him into the sugar glass. At least I'm assuming it was sugar glass. So, yeah.
Now, Jack Perry was in charge on that one. He said no sugar glass.
Over the Top was a guilty pleasure of mine. So I guess that's really interesting that he had a really good relationship with Sylvester Stallone. And it makes sense because he was semi-retired for the first time here, maybe second time. Did that about 6 or 7 more times, Terry Funk. That just goes to show that his love for the business was so much that he retired about 8 or 9 times. And then I just recently saw a promo of his with the former Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley, before the WrestleMania match that he had with Brock Lesnar, where he gave him the chainsaw. And just the believability in the promo, and Terry Funk there at the age of, I would assume, was like in his high 60s, low 70s. You kind of would have been apt to want to see him wrestle a match in about a week or 2 after you saw that promo. Go back and see it. It was kind of a cool gem.
There's a fun clip going around online. I read the book, but I'd kind of forgotten about it. But there's people sharing audio of Jon Moxley reading his book. And it's about Triple H is criticizing, I think, the way he sells in the ring. It's like, are you going to go around running in circles doing the Homer Simpson like Terry Funk? And Jon Moxley's like, Terry Funk fucking rules. What are you talking about?
Are you fucking dumb? Yeah, like, of course. Why would I not try to do the Terry Funk? Yeah. I mean, again, he always kind of felt out of his element in WWF. Like, it's almost like Terry Funk was too real, like too legit for the WWF. I don't know. Like, he was an established guy when he came in, but yeah, he had the Hogan stuff, so that was fine. But there was other times where like they were gonna bring him in and he kind of dipped out, or he wasn't really in. Like, he was gonna be one of the knights at Survivor Series '93. Yeah, and he just like canceled at the last second. It was like, no, I'm not gonna do it anymore. He said, I think his excuse was something about like he had something to do on his ranch, like with his horse.
Sick horse, yeah.
Yeah. So he's just like, nah.
Not that he was going to be doing the job.
It's like, I'm not going to be the Red Knight or whatever he was supposed to be. He's like, I'm good, So maybe he recognized it too. I mean, obviously he did the stuff in 97 and 98 and was around here and there, but
I think he was just somebody who knew his value, who knew his talent, and he wasn't going to let somebody treat him anything less than that.
Yeah. Justin, you took the retirement match from 97 in our Bret Hart draft, did you not?
I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I was
That was a
waiting
great
for you
pick.
guys to mention that. I was like, do I have to mention it before this segment's over?
Well, I mean, that's another
Yes, sir.
Hollywood piece. Beyond the Mat, played a
Yep.
key part in that movie, and you saw that for the first time there. And there's great stories about that retirement. Now it sounds funny, retirement, but like the retirement show he did in 97, and he had a bunch of people out to his ranch, and he was grilling for everybody and fans too, not just people from the business, and just a hell of a nice guy all around. I had a couple of listeners send in emails about Terry, so this is another reason to be in
Nice.
our Facebook group because you can get involved in the podcast. I put out yesterday. If you have anything you want to share about Terry Funk, send me an email, and I will read it on the air. And the first one I got, our good buddy Stuart Civiter, Nails fan.
Love Stewart.
Stuart writes in, normally I like to joke and have fun when it comes to wrestling, but hearing of Terry passing hit me quite hard compared to other wrestlers. He's an odd wrestler. As young or old of a wrestling fan, we all love Terry and have fond memories of him, even though most of us weren't alive for his peak as a performer, yet he's so beloved. He said, my favorite bits of Funk are the Flair feud, the Lawler matches and promos. Yeah, the promos with Lawler are crazy. His teaming with his brother against Hanson and Brody, and his chair swinging battle with Foley at the Rumble. That's from Stuart. I also got one here from David Finnegan. He says, hello, fellas. As slaves to moments in time, it's easy to bless someone with a GOAT label 10 minutes after they pass. And I'm sure over the next few days, people who haven't uttered the name Terry Funk will pile on the hyperbole. Here are some facts. It's going to sound weird, but he'll get to his point. Flair was a better promo. Hogan drew more money. Austin had a bigger peak. Angle had the Olympic amateur background. Foley was more hardcore. Bruno had more notoriety in the 70s because of New York. And hell, he probably wasn't even the best pure wrestler in his family. But Terry Funk checked every box you'd ever want in a pro wrestler. He could talk, fight, draw money, make you want to see him, had the tough guy background, and could get it done in the ring. He was relevant in the wrestling world starting in the late 60s, and his legacy still carries on more than 50 years later. Is he on pro wrestling's Mount Rushmore? Maybe not, but if they made a second Mount Rushmore next door, you'd have to give the Funker a long, hard look.
Love Dave Finnegan with all my heart and soul. Fellow Waterloo, Iowa boy.
Yeah, he's a local. So there you go. Those are our two emails we got in the last 24 hours about Terry Funk. So I'm sure we're going to be talking about him more in the coming days in the group. So join the group, facebook.com, search Top Rope Nation Pro Wrestling Discussion.
Yeah. I think we're going to be doing SummerSlam 98 next week, of course.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the Raw either the week or two before SummerSlam 98. I'm trying to remember if he even made an appearance on the pay-per-view, so I hope we do get to mention him again in that capacity. And for as bad as WCW 2000 and 2001 was, Terry Funk had some of the more entertaining segments in WCW Nitro history during that time frame. So go back and watch his hardcore matches. They're actually really good.
Yeah. There you go. Justin, any closing thoughts on Terry before we get to All In?
No, I just one of a kind. I shared somebody, I can't think of the name at the moment, but I shared somebody else's Twitter thread on our Facebook group of him picking out his one favorite match from every year of Terry Funk's career. And I highly recommend people looking that up because it's a great list. Good thread.
Yeah, it was very good. So, yeah, rest in peace, Terry. Hell of a career, all-time legend. Not going to be the last time we talk about Terry Funk on this program.
Nope.
I can guarantee you that. And Bray Wyatt either for his part. So, yeah, rest in peace to both of them. Jesse?
Made the spinning toe hold look believable.
Yeah.
Such a cool submission hold back in the 70s. You could say like Mick Foley had the three faces of Foley. Funk had the three faces of Funk before he did too, though. He had the technical guy, the brawler,
Yeah.
and the comedian. The only difference was didn't have three outfits. He definitely had two. The long tights, but he usually went with a kind of varsity style jacket and then trunks in the early portions of his career as well in Japan. So it's cool.
You say the comedian, and isn't that one of the great things about Terry Funk? Because, you know, as a kid, you thought he was just wild and nuts, and then when you watch him as an adult, you're like entertained in a totally different way.
Mhm.
Watching him, like you're laughing. It's funny the promos he would cut, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was also, I was going to mention this earlier, when his brother was the NWA World Champion. That was kind of his role, is he would go to the next territory before Dory got there, and it was Terry's job to basically heat up whatever top babyface was going to challenge Dory, and he'd come in and like, Terry's psychotic, and they'd be like, his brother is the world champion, but this Terry Funk, this guy's friggin' nuts. And if you can beat Terry Funk, then maybe you actually have a chance against the world champion. And that was his job, just to be nuts and go around and get the territory ready for his brother, the world champ. So yeah, that certainly gave him believability and trained him for what was to come later in his career. No doubt about it.
Got one more thing. This is
Yeah.
kind of an important nugget. Right before they were taping a WCW Saturday Night back in, I believe it was '89. So this was in the height of Funk's popularity. He wanted to wrestle in like a burgeoning independent star, somebody who had not been seen on TV. So he had a dark match with Eddie Guerrero, and they absolutely tore
Yes.
the house
Mhm.
down. Terry sold for him more than what the backstage bookers and the bigwigs wanted him to. So if you can find that as well, so please take a list of everything we just gave you. Yeah, the Terry Funk Eddie Guerrero match from 1989, and just the amount of offense and how great Eddie looked, it was awesome. So
Great call out. Guys, I got to tell you, I mean, felt pretty bad coming on the air tonight, but this has definitely helped talking about these two. I'm in a much better mood now. So I think I am ready to talk about All In now. You guys feeling a little better at least?
Yeah,
Terry
let's
Funk would
do
want
it.
us to talk about All In. Let's be real. So we got AEW All In, over 80,000 tickets distributed. I don't know how, I mean, they're moving a lot of tickets per day now for this show. I don't know if they're going to get close to 85 to 90 or where they're going to be, but man, I can't wait to see how this looks on TV. It is going to be
same. I gotta say, that's my most excited part of this entire thing is, what is this going to look like? What is it going to sound like? Is the crowd going to bring it? Even more so than the ho-hum build to the show, which is kind of a staple of AEW shows these days. I just want to see a promotion other than WWE/WWF put on a show in a giant stadium. As a wrestling fan, I could not understand how you could not be excited for that. How you could not be excited for that.
the crowd, they're going to be the stars of this whole show.
Yes.
I will put 100% guarantee on that.
Per WrestleTix, they have a setup for 85,291 right now. There's 4,400 tickets available as of yesterday. The estimate paid is 74.5, but they've distributed about 81,000 tickets. The total setup that they could fit if they release some of the holds that are on the map right now would be 91,871. And if they were able to sell every seat on the seating map, they could get 97,241 in there, legit. So, I mean, they're at about 81,000 now. Add in a couple more days. They're doing heavy advertising blitzing now over there in the last couple days to close strong. I feel like this is one of those things where even, non-wrestling fans who are sitting in the pub on, the day before or something, and they hear about it and like, okay, I might get a cheap ticket and go. They could do decent walk-up for those upper deck cheaper tickets too. It'll be really, really interesting to see how many they pack in there. Justin, you mentioned the build being so. I totally agree. Last night's Dynamite was decent. I
Mhm.
thought, in closing everything, though. And this is what we always say about AEW. I don't know how many times, 3-4 weeks out, what are they doing here? And then you get a week or two before the show, and then they just blitz you and they get you jacked. And I think the one match that really stands out for me in that regard going into tomorrow night, and boy, this is going to be music to Michael Jenkinson's ears, is this Jericho Will Ospreay match, because Ospreay in particular was phenomenal in that
Mhm.
promo, as Jesse hinted at a little bit ago. I
Agreed.
mean, when you watch Will Ospreay, and again, it helps that Chris Jericho is a legit star, but Ospreay was just tremendous on Dynamite last night and selling the match. To me, this harkened back to like a boxing or MMA promo. Like, you believed every word that he said. He's going to be the guy who in a 3-month or a 2-month period beats Omega, Okada, and Chris Jericho. I mean, he was so intense. Jesse, you nodded immediately too. You guys are a lot more hyped for this as well, I'm guessing, Mr. Velasquez.
That's what a good contract signing segment looks like.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about how it's overdone, but when it's done like that, keep doing it. The problem is, I can't believe I'm saying this, because Will Ospreay, up until his like the end of his junior heavyweight days into his heavyweight days, was never known as a very good promo.
Yeah.
And then over the last couple of years, all of a sudden, you're like, yep, it's taken it to another level. He had a great promo with Kenny Omega before Wrestle Kingdom 17. So yeah, the hype meter has gone up a good amount for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I am a self-professed, like, Will Ospreay is one of my favorite performers going, so I'm going to be excited to see him regardless. And I get the whole Jericho thing as into why they're doing this, just because Jericho's gone through all the top talent already, or at least he's wrestled them, and Ospreay's the next guy on the list. And Jericho did a good job of that last night too. I truly believe, just hyping up how he helped with Ospreay's maturation, and he said if you keep doing what you're doing in the junior heavyweight division, you're gonna end up in a wheelchair like Hayabusa. I mean, that was some impressive stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, my hype meter has gone up a fair amount
Yep.
for this match.
Chris Jericho hammering home that this is the biggest match of his career. It's bigger than any WrestleMania match he's ever had, which there's arguments that could be made against that. But I mean, truth be told, if you want to solidify AEW, it's got to be with this show. So this is a very important match for Chris Jericho. He stopped and stuttered a little bit with his promo, but for the most part, it was very good. My only problem with this entire thing is I don't think it needed Don Callis at all. I think Don Callis should have been just involved with Omega and Takeshita, especially considering the back and forth between Jericho and Ospreay in this contract signing. Didn't need Callis at all, really, considering the story that they're telling. This has more to do with what this match is going to mean to their careers, not with any kind of blood feud. And blood feud is exactly what's kind of missing from Omega and Takeshita right now. That feels kind of cold.
Yeah.
Also, what I really liked about the Ospreay promo was that he mentioned that in 6 months his contract is up, so kind of left that wavering thoughts in people's heads that he could make his way stateside, even though I know publicly or in interviews he's pretty content living in Japan and doesn't necessarily see himself wanting to live in the US.
That's what they all say before they end up moving to the US.
So who
Tony
wins?
Khan money.
Who wins, Justin?
I don't understand why Jericho would win this one. I think it's got to be Ospreay, because you got to get back to the Omega match.
Yeah. Jesse, you're nodding.
Yes. I mean, even when the match was announced, you pretty much automatically knew that Will Ospreay was going to be the guy. I just want him to get a very good match out of Chris Jericho. And as someone alluded to in the chat, if there is one guy to do it right now, it's Will Ospreay.
I'm going to be fascinated to see the reaction to Ospreay, just because a lot of the people I follow on Twitter don't like him, and a lot of them are from England. So I'll be curious to see how much that translates to his reaction in England, if he actually gets a big response or not.
Yeah. He has an interesting story growing up too. So, I mean, he's pretty uneducated. He's an Essex street kid. So I guess that kind of why he like rubs people the wrong ways in some of his prior interviews and in the past with publications. So, yeah, that's a very, very good take. Just wondering how the crowd's going to react to their hometown kid, even though he's kind of playing the heel here.
Yeah. I did see Brandon in the chat saying he's hoping to see us in Chicago. He'll be at all 4 shows. Brandon's been a supporter of the pod for a long time. He's a patron. We'd love to organize a meetup, have some drinks with the listeners. We did this in Vegas for Double or Nothing. And if you're not a drinker, just hang out, have some food, whatever. We do have a thread in the Facebook group. So I need to get that back to the top of the feed. So we'll be posting in there and try to organize something because we do know a lot of listeners are going to be at All Out the following weekend. So hopefully All Out will have a good card coming out of this show. That's going to be one of the key talking points after this because they got such a quick turnaround. But I want to transition to another match on the card, which, don't get me wrong, I am very much looking forward to the match. It is one of my top 3 most anticipated matches on the card. That being said, I thought the go home for this one was not great, and that was the Young Bucks and FTR. I thought that backstage segment was pretty so-so. It felt that they were really trying hard to sound aggressive. I didn't think FTR was particularly strong in this in particular.
I think they got rattled. I think when the Bucks were talking about, when they finally started talking about legacy, that the FTR's legacy was going to be directly tied to the Bucks. I think that fucking rattled FTR bald. He had no response.
He seemed uncomfortable. He did. You're right. That's where he started to feel off to me. Absolutely.
Cash looked out of it the entire interview.
Well, just thank God Cash didn't brandish a gun to intimidate the Young Bucks.
Yeah, Jesus.
Heaven forbid.
I mean, this one, you got to go with the Bucks. I wouldn't have said that before the Cash Wheeler incident, but this promotion cannot risk a situation where they got to vacate a big title again. They just cannot. And so I think the Bucks have to win. You guys?
Yeah, super bummed about it. 3 weeks ago, I would have said it has to be FTR, except for the fact that, Bucks just signed a brand new contract. So
that too. Yeah.
It doesn't sound like they have any interest in doing trios anytime soon, understandably. So what else would you do with them?
Well, I'm glad they don't want to do trios because I've said that the Elite's just wasting away in that trios division. Like, they made sense to start those titles out with them, or try to, and then what happened last year. But like, I want Kenny Omega in the singles division, and I want the Young Bucks in the tag team division, and the tag team division has gotten watered down largely, in my view, because of the trios titles.
Yep.
I mean, again, Acclaimed, what are they doing? The other hot tag team for the last couple of years, they're working for the trios titles now, and I'm fine with that match. It's got a good story build for it, but when push comes to shove, I want the Acclaimed in the tag team division, not screwing around with the trios titles. And so that's been the big problem. So I'm happy to hear that the Bucks, and this cements them back in the tag team division, obviously, if they win the titles. So I'm totally fine with that.
Both of these teams have newly signed contracts. FTR was in April, so they're going to be around for a while.
Mhm.
I'm very, very. We mentioned now, I think you can start to see some of the seeds that are being planted on these episodes, that they're really trying to do a rebuild of that once vaunted tag team division, with especially Aussie Open at the end last night. Like, I think they want them to move to AEW television permanently. So they're obviously not going to hold these ROH belts forever, but just imagine a tag division with the 2 teams that are involved here. You have Lucha Bros, Aussie Open, the Acclaimed, Santana and Ortiz are back. I mean, that's a hell of a head start on a fantastic division that was once your calling card too.
Yes.
Especially when FTR moved in back in 2020.
Mm-hmm. Sean asked in the chat, this was a big topic a week ago, should Cash be wrestling in this match? And, we haven't touched on this on the pod because that news broke, I believe, last Friday, right after we put out the last show. And boy, I mean, you can go either way on this. People are making assumptions right away.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know everything. I think it's going to be interesting to see how this case plays out. Anyone from the US will tell you that, and I know like about a third of our listeners are overseas. So I'll just say in the US, when it comes to crimes committed with guns, Florida is not exactly a not a state that will, come down hard on you. So in this case with this,
I heard they gave him a first class ticket to England.
Well, yeah.
No, brandishing a weapon. First class ticket.
Florida man, blank.
I don't know. This is going to be interesting because I don't really know how something like this can be proven unless they have like footage from a traffic camera or something. Other than that, man, I don't know. Isn't it just going to be word versus word? And it's going to be tough to prove. Obviously, we have innocence until proven guilty in this country. So does it set a bad example? Yeah. I mean, this is entertainment. This is a marquee match in the biggest wrestling show of all time. What would WWE do? Do you think WWE would pull him? I don't think so.
No.
So I'm not going to come down too hard on him. I know people are going to say that you can't do that. You can't justify this by what WWE would do. Maybe not, but as of right now, he doesn't have a criminal history. He hasn't been found guilty. Would I take the belt off of him? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Would I keep him off TV after that until we figure out what the hell is happening down there? Yes, I would. We'll see what happens. You guys have any thoughts?
His working visa either, so he's able to go overseas, unlike a couple of people we're going to mention later.
Oh yes, can't get a passport in time. Come on, man, what are you doing? I think he might have lost a lot more TV time moving forward, rather than just this match. AR Fox, not a good look. Not a good look for this guy.
That was
thoughts, you guys.
If you're moving on to that, no. If you're moving on to that, go ahead. Because actually, I just kind of wanted to bring that up too.
Oh no, I'm not moving on. If you guys have any thoughts on the cash situation in particular,
no,
Justin,
I don't really give a shit. I mean, I mostly like what he does on Twitter. He seems like a good guy. If what he did is true, that's pretty fucking shitty and stupid on his part. You just kind of hope it's a one-off, but if legally he can go, fuck it, go lose your belts.
Yeah. Jesse, anything?
Yeah, I totally agree with Justin, especially with a super clean record before. And then I know the locker room and like all the locker rooms that he's been, it's kind of similar to like a Bray Wyatt and the such that he's really well received amongst his peers.
Even MJF came to his defense, and there's been obvious heat between, him and FTR. So I think that says a lot.
Yeah.
But no, Bucks are winning.
Yeah. Okay. So the AR Fox stuff. All right. So this match, Darby and Sting, Swerve, and now Christian Cage in the coffin match. The build to this has been kind of confusing. Just all the names and moving parts and everything. And then you consider the story with, Christian working Darby and then Darby working Luchasaurus at All Out. And you got to kind of think, all right, how did all these pieces fit together? We did the Dynamite post show on BR app last night, me and Ben Cruz. It was like I had to explain to him again, like how all of this fits together and why Christian would be involved here. And all of that said, as convoluted as this build has been, this Christian Cage is fucking unbelievable. I mean, that promo he cut last night on Dynamite, so mean. I hope he had permission to say that stuff, first of all. But his delivery that he laid out for Nick Wayne about his dad, I mean, it's just horrendous stuff he's saying. But the way he delivers it, just so deadpan with no emotion, is just like, you don't want to laugh because it's so mean, but my God, that promo was crazy.
That's his gimmick coming off of his feud with Jack Perry.
I know.
When he came out, kind of the same thing as I was like, wait, does this make sense for him to be part of this? But then it's like they cut to Nick Wayne. I was like, oh, Christian and Dead Daddies. And then I started bouncing on my seat like, oh, here we go.
It was nuts. I did not like AR Fox after Swerve booted him, like automatically getting forgiven by that was lame booking. And okay, Darby, they got this long history, but like what happened with Nick Wayne? Shouldn't have Nick Wayne been like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
You're just gonna forgive this guy? I'm out. So
that
whatever. That didn't make any sense.
The problem with that is that was like a 3 to 2 week angle condensed into like 10 to 5 minutes.
Yes.
It would have been fine if some of that had just happened weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the entire story of the show is this all should have been drawn out like 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. That being said, Christian's unreal, man. And there's been the rumors out there about Edge and everything. I do hope Edge goes to AEW. I don't know why anyone wouldn't want to see this. I hope Edge does a retirement tour and he works every match he wants to do. He doesn't owe WWE shit. These people arguing that, he's a WWE guy and he can't go over there. What? I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame. He's done it all. This guy's at the end of his run. Let him do whatever he wants. If he wants to go AEW for a short run, if he wants to work Japan, like whatever he wants to do, I want to see it. And right now with Christian being such a dirty heel, they wouldn't really team. You can't bring an Edge as a heel, but I would like to see him there eventually. I hope it does happen. But yeah, Christian was the highlight for me, Jesse.
One of his best friends, by the way, so it'd make it a lot easier for the recruitment standpoint as well. And he can also look to see the two legends in this match and how they've been booked in AEW and go, I'm getting the superstar treatment when I get there. There's zero question about that. Yeah, the AR Fox stuff was horrid. I'll tell you, I mean, it's have they even disclosed why he's not traveling? Is it visas or what the relation is?
AR Fox, I believe it is his passport is not coming in on time, is what I heard.
Got it. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like a timeline issue with being able to travel. I mean, it's dumb on his part, but at the same time, AEW should have a department monitoring this thing. Like, is everyone ready to travel overseas? Do we have all the documentation? So that's also an oversight on their part. I think he's going to be punished for this, though.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if he's like written off TV totally moving forward.
Look what happened last night. That was just so weird. All of it was just bizarre to me. And what was sad about all of this is over the last month, that's been one of the better booked angles that AEW has been doing. Or one of the better stories is with Swerve and AR Fox going to Nick Wayne's gym and just beating him to hell and just, and Darby coming in there. Yeah, it was phenomenal. So it was kind of odd to see that match on a Dynamite last night.
Yeah.
Those two. And then Sting, of course, making the appearance there. But Christian Cage, he's doing some amazing work. Sean, I get his point in the chat as well, because I've been pretty critical about them bringing in older talent, like high 40s, low 50s. But if they're featured as kind of bit players, I mean, just kind of one-off spots here and there.
Yeah.
I always joke that Sting must pose because he hasn't lost yet. They're going to win again on Sunday, so we have that going for him too. But they do a really good job by the Legends.
Best run of Sting's career, according to Tony. Come on, Tony. Best run of his career. What are we doing here, Tony?
And my last thing about all of this is Nick Wayne's mom has got it going on.
I thought that last night as well. I was going to text you guys. Yes, indeed. That was a great
dirty dogs.
To Sean's point in the chat again, like, it is an older guy from WWE coming in. I think it's fine if in the long term you use it to put over that younger talent. It can only help guys in the smaller company. Sean also mentioned that the Hardys haven't helped AEW in any way. That's pretty much true, but I think Edge has a lot more in the tank than the Hardys do. Like, he's a better performer right now than either Hardy, like by far.
Apparently Christian does too.
Yeah.
Jeez, that match with Darby last Saturday night was wonderful.
Yeah, I really liked that also.
Yeah.
So he's a great replacement for this match.
Yeah. Yeah, that being said, Darby and Sting are winning for sure, in my view. So we picked the Young Bucks. We mentioned a tag team. So MJF and Cole in the opener on 0 Hour against Aussie Open. Who wins that match?
Just real quick, for the record,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going Strickland and Cage.
Oh, okay.
I would love for that to happen.
I think they need to spice it up a little bit. Throw that giant crowd off a little bit.
And Swerve in these bigger spot situations has not had a W in a long time.
Exactly.
Yeah, people have been critical of that online for sure.
He
So-
needs it.
And this is building on to stuff that's going into All Out. So it'd just be kind of weird if you build it by having the baby face go over. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Darby can eat the pin. Sting's fine with his first loss.
I know. Been waiting for it.
Okay, so then elsewhere on the card, okay, yeah. So real quick, because we're going to talk more about the main event, but in the 0 Hour match, do you think MJF and Cole take the ROH tag titles?
No.
Yay or nay?
Absolutely not. There's going to be some sort of shenanigans, not necessarily like a hard split between them, but something that's going to build the intrigue into the main event. They've got to have a plan here. And it's not them carrying the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships into the main event of the biggest wrestling show of all time.
I've been waffling back and forth on this for a week because you both are on the opposite sides of the fence. I am going to go Aussie Open as well. I'm just not 100% sure how they're going to pull this off and what sort of shenanigans are going to take place for them to lose. MJF and Cole, it is.
Yeah, I'm not like certain on it or anything, but I lean towards Cole and MJF winning them just because to me, now it depends how they book it. Justin's totally right. You know, if they come up with some shenanigan way for them to lose and they keep them strong, which they have to do, obviously, I think that would be fine. You know, the Kingdom guys come out or something like that happens. That's probably how it would go down. I don't know. I just keep coming back to anyone tuning in that doesn't really watch the week to week for the free pre-show. If they see these guys who are in the main event on this $50 show lose to two guys they've never heard of, I just feel like that's just kind of a weird look. So it depends how they book it and lay it out. I think I'm going to stick with Cole and MJF winning them, but I'm definitely far from certain on this. So,
I'm in your camp on that for sure, Ryan. I think it's like a 60-40 who's going to win this match. I'm going to stick with Aussie Open though.
Yeah. The other pre-show match is Jack Perry against Hook for the FTW Championship. I don't have any deep thoughts on this match, certainly, but pick a winner, Justin.
I'll go Hook because I like him better.
Yes. Jesse.
I just want to see Hook more. He's
Yes.
been around for 2 years, a little over now. Can we get a little more out of him? I mean,
He kind of dropped the ball in this. He's very popular, and it seemed early
Yeah.
like they're bringing him on slowly, which makes sense, you know. And then they brought him on so slowly they forgot about the guy, you know. So I don't know. I think I'm going to pick him here. To be honest, I am going to pick Hook. It doesn't really make sense with how they've been trying to book Perry Strong and working with a legend like Rob Van Dam, but I think I'll pick Hook.
I figured they were going to retire the FTW Championship, which, by the way, that it's going to be taking place Saturday night on Collision. So they haven't fully announced that yet, but yeah. I'm going to make it unanimous. I'm also going to go with Hook to regain his championship over Jungle Boy, or excuse me, Jack Perry.
All right. Elsewhere on the card, the women's title. Hikaru Shida defending in the Fatal 4-Way against Toni Storm, Saraya, and Britt Baker. I'll go Jesse first on this one. Who you got winning?
It doesn't make any sense for Shida to lose her championship. To me, I get a feeling she is going to lose it, but I am going to stick with Hikaru Shida in this instance. Time to give her a little bit of a run, and I've been really intrigued with this new Toni Storm 1930s 40s character. I've really enjoyed that presentation. So it would be a little strange for her to regain the title like less than a month after she lost it. So, and then with Britt and Saraya just being there, they really haven't concluded their feud. I mean, it started last year, but at the same time, they really didn't give a full conclusion to it. So we'll see what ventures from there. I'll stick with Shida to retain.
Agree with everything Jesse said. Sheeta next.
Yeah, I think Sheeta retains, and she works a singles match at All Out with one of these ladies. They probably set that up through the finish in this match. But yeah, it would not make sense for her to lose right here. I agree. I want to see Britt get another run with the title, but yeah, Sheeta having just won it too soon. Agree with you. Toni Storm has been tremendous. She is really entertaining in those promos and the different looks with her hair every week and everything. It's good stuff. Okay. 6-man tag. So Golden Elite taking on Takeshita and Bullet Club Gold. Thoughts here? Throw to Justin first.
I really dislike the way they've utilized almost everybody in this match, which kind of taints the way I look at it. It just sucks because I honestly, I don't care. I don't care who wins. I think it would be more prosperous going forward if Bullet Club Gold won. I think that'd make for a more interesting story. But to have Kenny Omega and Hangman lose in the biggest show in company history would be really fucking weird. So I guess that's your intrigue, and I don't think that's a good way to build intrigue. I guess I will go Golden Elite.
Yeah, this is interesting because, if they're going to do Kenny and Takeshita at All Out, traditionally Kenny would lose here and want some revenge, right? Like his team would lose, and then he wants his shot at Takeshita, or something screwy has to happen, or they win and he gets beat down.
Just got the upper hand on Takeshita on Dynamite.
I know. I don't know how you do this. Yeah, it would be weird for Golden Elite to lose this match in front of this crowd. For that reason, I think I got to go with them. But they got to do something to set up that match a week later because these shows are so tight. So what do you think, Jesse?
Yeah, I actually think they're going to pull a fast one in Chicago, and I think if it does end up being Kenny versus Takeshita, that Takeshita is going to shock the world and beat him. I think just to be a very fan-friendly experience, I think the Golden Elite have to go over here, especially with, I'm sure there's a handful of them in there that are disappointed that Kenny Omega's not getting a singles match too. But can't have everything you want.
For sure. All right. How do you guys feel about the Stadium Stampede match? Like, what is your anticipation for this? Because for me, of all of the Stadium Stampede and Anarchy in the Arena matches, this is like by far my least anticipated. Blackpool Combat Club, it sucked with Brian out. If Brian was around, I probably wouldn't be so out on them. But lately, it's been very stale. Mox had been stale, although I will say his match was phenomenal on Dynamite with Rey Fenix. That was a great match. Really good way to write Phoenix off here from the match with the angle that they did. The avalanche DDT out of the corner in that match last night was crazy. Kingston has been good. I will say Kingston's promo backstage as they took Rey Fenix off in the ambulance with Renee, and he's like, "Are you kidding me? Asking me, did you see what your husband just did out there?" Kingston was really good. So he's doing his best to build this. I just don't buy the best friends in this role. They're just not on the same level to be in this match. That's the big problem I have with this. Cassidy obviously belongs. So does Penta. Man, it's good to see Santana and Ortiz back together, but I'm still just I'm not really looking forward to this one that much. I saw you guys nodding. It seems like you agree. What do you think, Jesse?
Yes, it was really odd for that to be thrown in, and then they're like, "Go choose partners of your own." Like, please. And finally, they just explain it a handful of days beforehand, which I think they had to do in this case. And I'm a huge Santana and Ortiz guy, so I'm very happy that they're back. And it makes sense to align them with the BCC because they were in Blood and Guts with them last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that part makes sense. And Eddie Kingston, hello. Yes, shouting from the mountaintops to get this guy a reasonable push because he can talk, he can do everything. He's again eliciting all the characteristics that a certain Terry Funk had throughout his career, and he alluded to him as the greatest wrestler of all time. Wanted to follow in his footsteps. Him and Kawada are the biggest reasons why he is performing. So, yes, I'm going to go with it has to be the Blackpool Combat Club, Santana and Ortiz. I think only because, again, the best friends, no one's been excited about them since, it's probably say the pandemic started.
Yes.
They had a great match, but they lost their opportunity, their tag title match. I think it was Omega and Page at the time. People were arguing that the best friends should actually get them because of how well they had been working. I agreed at that time. They had a great match with Santana and Ortiz in the backlot parking brawl. But other than that, the last couple of years, they've been irrelevant outside of a pretty good Trent singles match here and there. Like Chuck's just kind of off in the beaten path. So BCC.
Mm-hmm. Justin.
Yeah, the intrigue for me on this match is basically what's going to come out of it. Because of a lot of the points you guys have brought up, but it's Kingston, Cassidy, Moxley, Claudio. It feels like we're heading to a Claudio and Kingston final battle, Ring of Honor, where Kingston can finally get the world championship, but just feels like kind of deserves more than that. And what we really want is Kingston and Moxley. The flip side of that is it feels like they're kind of building towards Moxley Cassidy a little bit with the best friends. But most importantly, this is not Stadium Stampede. This is Anarchy in the Arena. That's what this match is going to be, because it's, they're not going to be able to do all the lockdown stuff, the
There's
pandemic.
people there.
Yeah. So it's not going to be a Stadium Stampede. I'll go Blackpool Combat Club, because you don't want Santana or Ortiz losing on their first match back.
Yeah, I'll make it 3 for 3. Blackpool Combat Club as well. I think you guys covered it pretty well. So let's roll on to House of Black defending against Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed for the AEW Trios titles. Briefly mentioned this earlier when we were talking about the Trios title scene and everything. Badass Billy Gunn is back, you guys. I guess that's better than Rockabilly. But yes, the Badass Billy Gunn is back. And I saw somewhere, this might have been on social media, that AEW is trying to get the rights to use the Ass Man theme. We'll see.
Don't spend money on that, for fuck's sake. Come on.
I do not remember where I saw this. I did see this somewhere. So we'll see.
This country spent money on worse things, Justin.
Ass Man!
The crowd, I mean, it would be pretty funny. It would be to do it one time at least.
Or one half of the Smoking Guns.
Bring back the Smoking Guns theme song. There you go.
Ooh, that's a good play out.
Yeah. I mean, Billy Gunn. Yeah, it was fine how they did this retirement angle with him, and then he's coming back. The crowd will pop big if they win the Trios titles. I just don't really want to see House of Black drop them right now, though. They're doing good stuff. So, I mean, if they do it, it's just for the pop. I don't know, man. Justin, go ahead.
I agree with you. I'm not really ready to see House of Black drop the titles yet. Feels like they're finally, they've been holding the titles for how long now? And they finally got some momentum behind them. Clean shaven Malachi Black looks pretty good. The problem is, we all predicted the Bucks to win the tag titles, and I don't see them losing it within the next 4 to 5 months. What are you gonna do with the Acclaimed if they don't win these?
Fair point. Yeah. So you're going with him the title change then, huh?
Yes, I am.
All right. Jesse?
It would be odd to have Billy Gunn off TV for 5 or 6 weeks, bring him back for a week, and then have him lose again.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be super odd to me. I think that kind of tipped the hand there. Yeah, the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn are going to win the Trios championships as well. Very curious to see where they go with House of Black. If there's another rematch between the two, maybe it all out depending on how this is won. But by the way, shout out to Buddy Matthews for your engagement to Rhea Ripley as well.
Yes. Poor Dom. Guess she's gonna start sneaking in his name on her cheek on Monday Night Raw. We'll see. No more dirty Dom. Just Buddy right across there. Yeah, I'll make it 3 for 3. Again, like everything with the way it has been built up would tell you this is a title change. Just the classic booking sense of it. I just don't really want to see them drop them here, but yeah, everything, all the writing on the wall tells me they are going to drop the titles to the Acclaim. So I'll go title change as well. CM Punk defending the quote real world championship against Samoa Joe. Seen a lot of criticism of this. Now, I'm looking forward to the match. I don't think the build to this has been as bad as some people have made it out to be. Yes, Punk did just beat him a few weeks back. That's part of the story. I mean, he beat him. Joe's pissed. He wants the other match. You know, he asked him for weeks to get the other match. He's calling him out. I did like the angle they did on Collision, other than, yes, the go to sleep did not look great. But I like Punk dressing up and pretending to be the jobber and then attacking him. I thought that was fine to set this all up. And he dropped the I accept bitch or whatever it was he said.
Did you buy that was an homage to the Conquistadors for Edge?
Oh, yeah. I didn't hear that.
I saw that online. Maybe Punk trying to rope in Adam Copeland a little bit.
Ah, yeah.
Forgot about that too. He also snuck into a house show in Milwaukee back in 2018 with that similar mask.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
That's right. I remember that getting out there online.
Middle of the retirement. Yeah, it was like 2017 or 18.
Yeah. I was trying to find a screenshot.
I know. I'm with you, Ryan. I love that segment except for the GTS.
Yeah. So I don't think the build has been as bad. I've also seen criticism of the fact that AEW is promoting this as the real world but they're putting it in quotes, you know, so even like the promotion's acknowledging it's the real world champ. They're not calling it a legitimate title, but you have to advertise that as such. I don't have a problem with that at all. That being said, there's no way Punk loses. Go ahead.
Let's not acknowledge the nerds who complain about those kind of things.
I mean, that's ridiculous complaining.
Yeah.
You know, in my view.
That's soft.
I think it's interesting because, you know, eventually the two champions have to come together. Punk has,
exactly.
if this was a real sport, of course he's the real world champion. He never lost it. You know, like in boxing, MMA, when they have these interim champions and stuff, that's the whole point, is like the other guy comes back, they're the real champion, right? And like Punk never lost it. So it is legitimate. It's not like they just came up with this out of nowhere and it makes no sense. It makes a total sense. And so I don't have any problem with it. I think it's fine to promote the match as being for that title in quotes. And eventually you get the big match with Punk and probably MJF. That's the match they need to do. So yeah, fingers crossed, Justin says. So that said, there's no way Punk can lose here. You can't have Samoa Joe win the real world championship and not get Punk in the unification match. So I think Punk has to win.
CM Punk all the way.
Yeah. What do you think, Jesse?
I really like both these guys, but yes, I'm going to go CM Punk. I'll save my spiel for later on CM Punk and where they go with him after this.
Okay. Well, that just leaves the main event then. I believe we've covered everything else on the show. And so MJF and Cole, we did talk quite a bit about this one last week, so I guess we can see if anyone's opinions changed. I mean, when it comes down to the heel face dynamic, the winner of this match, I still agree with Jesse and Justin that Cole needs to be the one to turn heel. I think that's the strongest way to come out of this. I think when Cole turns, for it to be effective, he needs to win the title. I don't think it happens at this show. I see more and more people picking it to happen at this show. I don't think so. I'm not really sure. I haven't decided for sure. I know last week I kind of laid out a scenario, and you go back and listen to that show in the archives where they get to Full Gear and have a rematch. I just feel like, and I mean, especially if they win those ROH tag titles, they got more juice left in the tag team. And I don't think they're ready to stop right now. Selling a lot of merch. The crowd's really responding to them. It's going to be an effective turn when it happens. But I think they need to draw it out a little bit longer. So I'm just going to pick MJF to retain. Will there be some kind of distraction, perhaps, for him to retain? I hope they don't make this an NXT Adam Cole match and go 45, 50 minutes. But I will definitely, I am picking MJF in this, Jesse.
Yeah, I'm going MJF as well, and I'm very curious to see if they do pull the switcheroo, the heel turn after the match. It's the only way this is going to happen. I'll ask you both this question, get it out of the way right now. CM Punk, if this happens, if we think he's going to beat Joe, if MJF retains, is it too soon to do an MJF Punk match at All Out? Granted, we'll be there. Or are you in favor of the quick turnaround? I know this is kind of like being selfish.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think they should totally do that. Why wouldn't they? I think that's a fantastic idea.
I think it's way too early.
Where's the build? Where's the story?
Yeah, since I'm gonna be there with you guys, I'd love to see the match. I mean, they were setting up the initial match at the end of last year's show, when MJF came out on the stage and they had the confrontation, and then they never had the match at Full Gear as was initially scheduled. Yeah, selfishly, I'd like to see it, but you're gonna tell me we would miss out on weeks of promos with these guys? I mean, can you really do that with 1 week of TV? It would pop the buy rate for that show, I guess. I think creatively, I'd like to see it happen a little more down the line. I guess I wouldn't be stunned if they did it, just because I do think it is going to be such a tough deal to get people to turn around and spend $50 again a week later, unless they do something really strong. Because this is the show everyone wants to watch because of the crowd and Wembley and everything. And it sounds like they got a great number coming in already. I think Andrew Zarian, our friend from Mad Men, which also shout out to him, he was going through some stuff with his family, and that turned out to be turned out to be okay. There was some fear going on, and I just want to give a shout out to Andrew because we were thinking about him the last few weeks. But he reported 90,000 advance buys, which is a very strong number for advance buys, because a lot of people just buy it the day of the show. And so it looks like they're going to do a big number for All In. I think their all-time record is 205,000, something like that, for All Out 21. I don't know if they'll beat that or not, but man, if you do this strong number with people shelling out $50, it's going to be tough. The next week, they got their work cut out for them on Dynamite next week. Yeah, it'd be selfish for me to want to see it. I think they got to wait a little bit longer. You're nodding, Jesse, too?
I think they do. However, what do you do for a main event at All Out? Maybe I'm setting up Justin here for this one because, yeah, how do you justify turning around $50 more to see MJF wrestle anyone other than Punk?
And that's the thing. This is all connected because it's so close. Biggest show in company history. One of the biggest shows in pro wrestling history is going to happen this upcoming Sunday. If you're Tony Khan, do you want to send the crowd home happy? You want to end on a happy note on this show? Yay or nay?
100%, yes.
So how do you do that? Do you think the crowd is behind Adam Cole enough for him to be the baby face, or do you have to go MJF? And does an Cole heel turn do anything for the crowd? Like, don't you think that would piss them off that MJF lost the title?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of conundrum, because like MJF just wins. Kind of a boring outcome. Adam Cole turns heel on MJF. Not what the fans want. What do we want? What do we want out of this main event? And do we want to see MJF turn on a friend for the 4th or 5th time? Is that interesting?
No.
He's been so endearing as a babyface these last couple of months, or in an attempt to turn babyface, that he's convinced the audience that it's about time. And the promo last night was great, where he's just like, "Oh, this is the one guy who's actually made me want to change," which could be the sweetest little "I'm being a chameleon, I'm gonna stay heel," but not now, please. No. We're ready to buy you as a face for a little while. You can do something dastardly later on to turn heel.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think probably MJF retaining and then Punk coming out and you do the face-to-face right there in front of Wembley to set up All Out is what you got to do then.
Isn't that the best outcome? If you're trying to send this crowd home happy and build to your next pay-per-view, that's what you do. It is a shit payoff for what they've been building with MJF and Cole. But I think that's what they got to do.
You know, maybe you're influenced by that voice in your head saying, I'm going to be in the United Center. I'm going to be in the United Center. But
first time
I think, yeah, I think you've sold me. I think that is probably, thinking of it from that perspective, best way to go off the air and build a pay-per-view the next weekend. That does more than anything else that they could do, for sure. And gives the crowd a buzz coming out.
And I've seen people clamoring for, don't end this MJF and Cole thing right now. Keep that going.
Mm-hmm.
So how about at All Out, Cole costs Punk to MJF, so MJF can walk out as the true world champion. Then you go right into a Punk and Cole feud, and you can hold off on Cole and MJF all that much longer.
Are you on the writing team right now? Because that is very good. Maybe you should be on the writing team, because that is probably the best way to go about it, Justin.
If it were anywhere but Chicago, can you now? You should be able to pretty easily spin it around to where once they get out of All Out, that Punk could be the heel in this scenario. Cole and MJF for the baby faces.
Yeah, I mean, if Cole costs Punk, Cole's going to get the shit boot out of him in Chicago for that.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Which, isn't that exactly what you would want?
Yeah, because it wouldn't happen anywhere else. You know, they'd probably cheer it outside of Chicago based on the reactions Punk is getting right now. But I mean, I think Cole would still be getting the babyface reactions with MJF, even coming out of that show ending that way elsewhere. So it wouldn't change his trajectory too much. Like, I'm still being a babyface coming out of this and working with Punk.
Chicago crowds are starting to turn into Canadian crowds where they're just going to cheer their own, and then everywhere else their own is going to get booed. It's starting.
Oh, just wait until Justin Fields lights up the NFL this year. You see that play out in the NFL.
Oh, no.
There you go. Hey, you guys are going to be tied together pretty soon. What if the Vikings trade for Trey Lance? I saw something on that.
Vikings want to trade for a third stringer? Interesting.
I mean,
we don't know what this guy is yet.
It's been done in the past. He's also a Minnesota native, Rochester's own Trey Lance.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes, was not recruited much by the University of Minnesota, so he went to North Dakota State, who arguably has a better football program, and helped them one of their plethora of championships. I swear, before I think it was like 2004 till about 2022, they were in every 1AA championship, and now they moved up to the next division.
Their main challenger is always Northern Iowa. Yeah, a lot of years.
The Bison are legit.
Yeah, so not to get us too off the rails there, but I had to draw on the sports a little bit. Yeah, Justin, I like that scenario you played out a lot, actually, because it does build All Out and make it like a must-see show. Yeah, I don't know, man. I agree. Then you get more juice out of MJF and Cole, extend that, do that match down the line, like maybe at a Full Gear, like I said last week. I like it. I'm intrigued. We'll see what they do.
What else are they going to do for us?
Yeah. I mean, they gotta throw us a bone. It's the United Center. It's Chicago. It's All Out. Set this thing up already. What do we have? What do we have? Oh, no.
Ship him to Wembley.
What do we have? 2 matches announced for All Out right now?
Yes.
I got to pick it up.
Can't wait for that Miro Hobbs match to main event.
Oh, boy. Well, you will have had so many beers by that point in time, you won't care, Jesse. Justin will just be feeding them to you at that point. You want another zombie dust, Jesse? I'll go grab them.
Done and done.
All right, this has been fun. We got a lot in. We talked modern wrestling. We talked about some of the greats of wrestling, and yeah, this was good. This is what I needed tonight, fellas. After a rough couple of days, I appreciate everyone who tuned in live or on demand. If you're listening on demand, check out the live feed sometime. But we appreciate all your support, whether you are here or listening on Friday or this weekend. We also, of course, appreciate all of our wonderful patrons. Shout out to Dan, who just rejoined the Patreon page today. He's been a patron in the past. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Dan.
And Jesse dropped Top Rope Nation Unplugged, his first episode this week. It was very good. He's got another one coming next week, so that's bonus content for you on Patreon. We got Top Rope Nation Classics coming next week on SummerSlam 98. Tons of reasons to sign up for the Patreon page. Go ahead and go over to patreon.com/Top Rope Nation. Get your 7-day free trial and get full access right away to over 100 bonus podcasts. Greatly appreciate your support. Best way to support us. If you want to support us for free, subscribe to us on YouTube, Top Rope Nation, or the SEScoops YouTube channel. Give SEScoops.com a view. Lots of great news and feature pieces going up on there every day. We got all your AEW All In and then later All Out coverage for you. And as we've been saying, join the Facebook group. Jesse, where can listeners find you on social media?
Jesse C. Velasquez on Twitter, and you're going to love this, TRN Unplugged
Yes,
on
indeed.
Twitter. I want to give a shout out real fast to Sean, David Jenkinson, and everybody in the chat tonight. Thank you very much for being active.
Mm-hmm.
It helps us out tremendously to not only feed off of each other, but to feed off of you guys as well. So we appreciate you.
Justin, social media.
Fuck if I know.
Where can
Fuck
they?
if I know. Add Justin something? I don't know.
You got to get on Threads. They have a web browser version now.
I know, right? I just when I get on social media, I'm either looking at people's wrestling takes, of which case I am not retweeting or liking. The only retweets or likes you're going to get from me is if it's Tottenham related. Sorry, everybody. I'm an Ainge guy.
Hey, if you need a Blue Sky invite, I got plenty of those now banked, so you can get on Blue Sky too. I will say overall, since Twitter has started to go downhill big time, I'm on social media a lot less now than I was maybe 3 or 4 months ago. So that's probably good for my mental health. But I do like Blue Sky a lot, and I like Threads. And you can find me on all of those at Ryan Droste. That's DROSTE. Instagram, same handle as well. All right. Episode 306 in the books, guys. Looking forward to seeing y'all next weekend. Seeing Justin this weekend. He'll be watching All In with me on Sunday. Yes. Should be a good time.
Yeah. All the love in the world to the families of Terry Funk and Wyndham Rotunda. Just fucking thank you guys for everything you gave to us in professional wrestling.
Absolutely. Well said. Jesse, any parting words?
Echo those sentiments, and as well as we'll give shout outs to Zach Hadorn and Frank Pettiani of PW Torch and former, now with Brass Ring fame and SEScoops fame. Zach, you're doing all kinds of things now. So
I see Sean in the chat.
Love it.
Shouting them out. Yeah, check out the SEScoops podcast, also found here on the SEScoops YouTube channel. We got all kinds of interviews, too, going up lately. Mike, our fearless leader over at SEScoops, he attended SummerSlam. He filmed all kinds of content there with some WWE stars. Going to be filming at StarCast next weekend as well. So good exclusive content along with your podcasts. All right, everybody. This has been episode 306 of Top Rope Nation. We will talk to you all again Monday, where we do the All In post show. We got one person confirmed for that show. Carl Longhorn, who is going to attend All In, will be with us Monday afternoon U.S. time to recount the show and talk about his experience there. We might have another person who also will be at the show. We'll see. I'm waiting on a final answer from him. It comes down to his transportation, but he's going to be giving me that answer soon. So there'll be 3 or 4 of us on that show Monday afternoon. So we will talk to you then. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you all next time.
Run.